In this video, I'm going to go over the solutions from the 5 questions from week 1, term 3 for Friday. So, the first 3 questions are all similar to examples from yesterday's lesson. And normally we include maybe 1 or 2, but because there were so many different things explored in that lesson, we're going to look at 3. So the first one is asking us to evaluate. Now, it's very important to notice here that we've got 3 logs, but they all have the same base. That's really important because if they have the same base, then we can use our laws with them. So let's have a look. We've got log base 3, 270, minus, and then we've got some brackets here. Because there's brackets, I'm going to work with that first. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to rewrite the first log. Now in the brackets, because we've got an addition and the logs have the same base, we can do the product law, which would come up like this. Log base 3, and then we'll do 2 times 5, which is 10. So we've already simplified some of it. Next, we've got log base 3, 270 minus log base 3, 10. So we're going to do the quotient law, which is the division law. So I'm going to do log base 3, 270 over 10, which would bring it to just log base 3, 27. And to finish that off, because we are asked to evaluate this, we can do one of 2 things. We can either do a BAP, which is just to rearrange and then figure it out that way. But because we were looking at the change of base law, let's do that one now. So we can rewrite log base 3, 27 as log, and this is log base 10. And then we take the 27 because it's the bigger number, and we pop it on log base 10, 3, because that's the smaller number, as in the one that's lower, and also written smaller. We can type those 2 things into the calculator, so we'll do log 27 over log 3, and we get the answer is equal to 3. So that is the answer for 1. For question 2, we've got a power law, but it's written a little bit differently. So normally we'd expect the 3 to be here on the outside of the brackets, but it actually does not matter. We can bring that out here, and the reason being is that the power outside the bracket is 1, and you may remember this from a while ago, but when you've got brackets and 2 powers like this, they're multiplied together. So we can actually rewrite this as log base a to the power of 3. It can be on the outside. It's not like we can just chuck them on either side, but the reason why that works is because of the multiply that I just explained there. Now, because it's the product law, I'm going to bring that 3 to the front. So we're going to have 3 log a. And one of our properties was that if we have a log with the same base as the number here, we can actually say, well, that's actually equal to 1. So it's 3 times 1, which is equal to 3. So that's the answer for question 2. I wonder if the answer to question 3 is also 3. I guess we'll find out. So we've got to evaluate log base 2 with 1/16. Now, there's 2 ways to do this, so I'm actually going to show both, just in case some people did one or the other. So the one way is to consider that this here can be changed with a reciprocal. So I'm going to do that first, so I can rewrite this as log base 2, 16, power of negative 1. Then we can bring that negative 1 to the front, so we can write that as negative log base 2, 16. And then because we're asked to evaluate, we can do the change of base. So the change of base would be negative log base 10, 16 over log base 10, 2. And we can type that into the calculator. Log 16 over log 2, making sure there's a negative there, and the answer is negative 4. Now the other way, which I'll do in blue, is actually to go straight into our change of base. So we can rewrite that as log base 10, 1 on 16, all over log base 10, 2. And if you type that into the calculator, which I'll do now, we also get negative 4. Just wanted to check. So either way would work, and whichever way you thought of first is the one that you should go with. But I just wanted to show you that both do work. For question 4, it's similar to some questions we've been doing earlier this week. So you'll see we've got if A is equal to 4, B is equal to 8, C is equal to 12, find big C, given that cos C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared all over 2AB. So this is a straight substitution, but then there's one extra step involved. So with the substitution, we can say that cos C, because we don't know what cos C is 4 squared plus 8 squared minus 12 squared all over 2 lots of 4 times 8. And I do the brackets just to make it a bit cleaner. Now if I type that into the calculator, I will get a value, but it will be the value of cos C. But I want the value of C. And what the C is, if it's part of a cos, is telling me that this is an angle. And hopefully you're saying to yourself that angles hang out in corners and they're shifty. And if you did say that, well, good on you. If you didn't, that's okay. Maybe next time. We've got cos, so I'm going to write cos negative 1, which is the shift of cos, and I'm going to instead put everything that's here into that. And then that will give me the value of C. Now you could have done it the other way, where you get the value and then do shift cos of the value, but you end up having to approximate that by rounding. And the reason why we don't like that is your answer could be off by a couple of degrees or maybe just decimals. It just depends. So it turns out that the angle is 180 degrees. Great. Now question 5. This one's a little bit hard for radio, in inverted commas, because I can't show you my calculator going through this process. So I'm just going to write down some notes as to tips as what's going on. So given the data below, find the standard deviation and the mean. So I wrote hint, use stat mode and calculator, just in case you wanted to do these definitely before checking your answers. There's the values there. So I remember to write down the values this time. So the first thing you want to do is press, and I'm going to write down these steps here. You want to press mode. And when you press mode, it will come up with some options. You then want to press the number next to stat. So depending on your calculator, that could be 2 or it could be 3, just depends. Then the next thing that you want to do is press 1, which is for one variable. That's what that stands for. And it should come up with, now depending on whether you've cleared your calculator, will either have an X column or an X column with a frequency column. Either way, it actually won't matter for this question. So the next thing that we do is input the values. So you want to type in, say, so I'm going to do 3 equals, then 5 equals, 8 equals, 7 equals, and these should be going down the calculator. And when you're done, you should have 7 numbers in a vertical line. And if the frequency column's there, they'll just ignore it. It will do it all properly anyway. Next, we press AC. Then we press Shift. And then we press 1. So when we do that, it will come up with some options. We want the button that says VAR, which stands for variance. Okay, so depending on which calculator you have, that might be a different number, so just pick the number that says VAR. When you press it, we're looking for two symbols. One symbol is the one that looks like that, and that is the standard deviation. So if you press the standard deviation and press equals, it might have a little X here. It's still the standard deviation, and for me it came up with 4.894811 and so on. It's got a bunch of things. We'll just go to 2 decimal places, but it's important to write that down first. And then I'm going to say 2 decimal places, and then we're going to do the mean. Now the mean in the calculator looks like an X with a bar above it. That's also in the variance section. When you press it and press equals, it will give you 7.571 and so on, and to 2 decimal places. We're just going to write it like that. Great. So you might have wanted to find the mean doing the old way, which is just adding it all up and dividing by 7, because there's 7 things there. You should get the same answer, but either way, if you're going, you have to type it into the calculator anyway to get the standard deviation. So whenever it asks for standard deviation, you should go through this process. And the reason why it's here in the 5 questions is because I would like you to remember it. All right, that's the end of the 5 questions for today. Please move on to the video for today's lesson. Thank you.